Thank you. Thank you both for your testimony. It is, as I was mentioning earlier, it seems like there's kind of an emphasis with a lot of the tribes on law enforcement and stuff. Mm-hmm. In the past, it's always been healthcare. And then I think what happened is that we did the advanced appropriation so that during the government shutdown, you didn't have to worry about that and those kind of things, which helped a lot. But you're absolutely right in that if you look at the total amount of spending that we're doing in healthcare in Indian country, it's not sufficient.
Right.
We mentioned yesterday that Chairman Cole educated me to this. If you look at the amount of money we spend per patient with veterans, which you would expect it to be high because a lot of them have injuries and, lost limbs, all that kind of stuff. You'd expect that to be a high number. But then you look at the rest of the population in general, it's at a certain level, and what we spend per Indian on health care is substantially less.
Right.
And we need to address that, and we're trying to do that. But you're right, it is hard to catch up once you're behind like we are. But we've been trying to do that. But it's kind of interesting to watch the testimony it was almost all health care before. And now it's kind of the other issues, education and law enforcement, that is also vitally important to the tribes. So that's something that we will continue to work on and try to address. Last year we held the first hearing that I think Congress has held on the murdered and missing Indigenous women and people. I was shocked when I heard that we lost 6,000 people every year. And frankly, nobody knows it.
Right.
And I will go to a meeting in Idaho. I mean, we have tribes in Idaho and stuff. But I will go to a meeting of the Chamber of Commerce and I'll say that and people are going, what? Why don't I know anything about that?
Right.
I've been involved in this committee for 24 years. And I just saw it watching a public television program. And I'm kind of going, you got to be kidding me. How come I don't know that? And somehow we've got to address that. And that's why we're trying to put additional money into law enforcement and that kind of stuff. But ultimately, you got to where it all begins is education. And so
I can't speak on every other state, but I know one of the problems in the state of Kansas is that Indians are classified as others.
Yeah.
So if they live off the reservation and something happens to them, they're an other, and we never really know.
Yep.
Also a jurisdictional issue.
Yeah.
And that's when we had this hearing on the murdered and missing. We had the FBI here and the other. And I came away from that going, and I study a lot of Indian issues and stuff to get myself familiar with them and stuff. And I understand them when I can read them. And then I get to the part on tribal justice. And it just confuses the hell out of me about who has jurisdiction of various things. When you got the FBI, you got local, you got county, you got state, and you got tribal law enforcement, and somehow we've got to address this. I happen to be one that believes that tribes ought to be able to do what they want on their reservation. They're in charge.
Thank you.
And I mean, that just makes sense to me. But somehow this jurisdictional issue, and it comes back to what you just said, they're classified as other.
Right.
So, I mean, you can't obviously do justice on your reservation. You got to have our influence on how to do it. That might have been the thinking 30 or 40 or 50 years ago. It's changed substantially. I know that when I was a kid growing up, the southern border of my town was the Fort Hall Indian Reservation and stuff. If you talk to any of the police officers or the sheriffs at that time, they didn't trust the police officers at the Fort Hall Reservation now. But they're trained just like state police, just like the local police, all that kind of stuff. And now they're getting memorandums of understanding and cross-deputization with the counties and stuff.
That part of it's important right there, is being able to work together.
Yep, that is vitally important. But we need to work on, and this isn't this committee's jurisdiction, it would be the Natural Resources Committee that does it. We need to work on the jurisdictional issue, I think, if we're going to address a lot of these problems on reservations and stuff.
One of the things that we were pushing last year was called the PROTECT Act, and that would allow the tribes to prosecute those that were with drug dealers to be able to get that, kind of like how VAWA is.
Yeah.
I think that hit a stumbling block because some folks added some other different things in there, and that's too bad. But that jurisdictional issue and how our tribal officers are licensed, because most of us are gaming tribes, we have to have them licensed through the state, through the BIA, because they have to understand who committed the crime, on what type of land it is, in order to figure out appropriately how to charge that individual. So there's a lot more involved where county officials have no idea where they're at and what's going on.
Yep.
And being able to work together.
It is confusing as hell. It is not only how you treat a tribal member that commits a crime on your reservation, but a tribal member from a different tribe.
Correct.
That commits a crime on your reservation. Or if you're a non-tribal member that commits a crime on your reservation. I mean, that's where I get lost when I read all this and go, who put this together? Anyway, it's something that we really need to address if we're going to address the challenges that you face. And it is amazing if you sit and look at the number of police officers, how large some of our reservations are, and the number of police officers that you have there. It is way insufficient to actually do law enforcement. I mean, you get a domestic disturbance call, it might be a 2-hour drive to get there, and you got one officer on duty. I mean, that's unacceptable.
Right.
So we're going to continue to work on it, but I appreciate your testimony on it.
Thank you.
Ms. Pingree?
Yeah, thank you. The chair did a good job of covering our big concerns about law enforcement, and I appreciate what you were telling us about the work you're doing to create your own law enforcement. But hopefully we can provide you with the resources to have your own detention facilities or some local arrangement. That sounds really like a huge impediment to what you do.
It's been difficult. You call down to the local contract that's in our county, and they're telling us that the facility's full.
Yeah.
Sorry, we won't take your prisoner.
That's really awful.
And that's a local contract that's controlled by the BIA, that function there. If we had control of it, to be able to go and get a contract to anybody local that works for us and is able to do that, then keeps our officers on the reservation.
Yeah, it would make so much more sense. Just seems ridiculous. Chair Rupnick, you mentioned that you had an increase in terminal diseases. That's a disturbing thought. So is that anything in particular? I know there are a lot of challenges when you don't have sufficient health care. People don't get the preventative care, but is there something specific going on?
Of course, we're in a farming community. I think a lot of that is attributed to pesticides and herbicides and things like that. While the tribe has pretty strict standards on the use of those chemicals, that doesn't necessarily mean those tribal members that are farming within that community have to follow that. And so many times you see an overuse of fertilizers and things like that, which we have seen a huge increase in algae blooms. So I think that is all kind of interconnected as well.
Wow. Yeah, that's fascinating. That's a hot topic of debate, so interesting to hear that you're experiencing that. Well, thank you both. Really appreciate your testimony. We always learn a lot from these.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Zinke? Or not Mr. Zinke, excuse me, I saw you. Mr. Elsey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've always wanted to be compared to the beautiful looks of do. Councilman DeCora, you mentioned the 5-hour round trip to the detention center. Is that in Wagner?
Correct.
The Yankton facility? Yep. And that's the only one in South Dakota and Nebraska?
District 1 in our area right
District
there.
1. Is there another one nearby?
Not a BIA facility, no.
Okay. And there's no aircraft that can transport either?
No.
Because there's a
no
runway at
airports.
Yankton.
Yeah.
You're laughing. The tribes can't just share an airplane.
No.
But it's really spread out. So, but the preponderance of Indian country population isn't up in Yankton. It's down.
No, we're in northeast Nebraska.
Yeah, it's in y'all's area. Okay, so is that facility full? When you mention a problem, I'm always looking for a solution. So is the solution having another one down by y'all in the eastern half of Nebraska?
Or even just the tribe having control of the ability to negotiate the local contract. Okay. That would probably be the most simple solution, like you're talking about. You're trying to find a solution. That would be the simplest route there.
And you can't because?
It's a BIA function.
And they won't work with you on it?
Until you do self-governance.
Until we do self-governance.
Well, no. For the tribe, the 638 contract.
Okay.
Until the tribe takes that's what I mentioned in my testimony, is to take responsibility over it.
Now I'm clear. Okay. Thank you for clarification.
Thank you.
And if you wonder, he's from Texas, so y'all is a term that they, we have a tendency to think that's what you do with your dog runs off. Y'all at them.
I got an aunt that lives in Dallas. I use y'all all the time.
My wife's from Texas, so I understand completely.
Betty?
Well, Mr. Chair, I am just amazed and honored that you know where Yankton is. Two things. Councilmember, thank you for bringing up the tribal colleges. I think this is something, Mr. Chair, that we're going to have to take a look at because the tribal colleges are finally taking off. And this is good for Indian country's economy, but it's good for our national economy too. And you're also not just training people for their 2-year degree, maybe to be an accountant or, a nurse aide, or and then go on to get their 4-year, right, a CPA, whatever, nurse practitioner eventually maybe. But also, from what I read in here, you're reaching out to do more of the trades, carpenters.
Correct.
That's very exciting because there's a huge workforce shortage for the trades.
Just had our first graduating class this past summer.
And how amazing is that to have people on site when the BIA comes in and builds a school or something with somebody who can pick up the phone and say, I don't think so, or whatever. So thank you for bringing that up. And I think we need to look at that because we've done a lot for historically black colleges and others, but tribal colleges were kind of a sleeper because the enrollment wasn't going up. Now it's going up. I had a different question for you, but if you want to piggyback on that, go ahead.
Absolutely. One of the things that I'd like to bring up to the committee is I am the treasurer for the Haskell Board of Regents, and Haskell has always been continuously underfunded regardless, and there is no set formula on how they should be funded per student.
Right.
And right now, the last estimate that I had is that BIE had not done any deferred maintenance on the facility, and they were sitting at about $100 million in the hole as far as buildings and structures and infrastructure there to be able to keep that facility going. That college serves 147 different tribal nations across the United States, and right now it's, of course, we got a bill in to try and the Haskell Improvement Act. But, we're still working through a lot of that language on where it's going to be and where it's going to land. But that is a facility that really needs to have, looked into and figure out what is the correct funding formula per student to be able to give these folks the education that they need.
Well,
thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm gonna take just another second. So, we work on all tribal nations, but all politics is local. So my tribes are mass. So I might not be signing on to your bill, but I'm with you in spirit.
We are a member of MASS because our reservation, and I didn't add that into my opening.
Yeah,
we have our reservation in Illinois now.
Oh, okay.
Prairie Band is in Illinois,
right.
and they asked us to join MASS.
All right. Well, then I'll get real parochial and. And with the Potawatomi with the dismoval and everything, that makes total sense. I just wanted to take a second on health care. Mm-hmm. You're a veteran. What branch of the service were you in, sir?
I was in the Army.
Okay. Thank you for your service.
Oh.
Hey.
I was a scout. I mean, I see your insignia,
I'm an Air
sir.
Force graduate that came via Army Air Corps, so I got your back. So we work a lot on veterans, and as Mr. Chairman Cole pointed out, that there's a discrepancy. One of the things that, with when it comes to VA health care, especially for Native Americans, you serve disproportionately at a higher rate than the rest of the population.
Yes, ma'am.
Then you tend to go back to very rural areas. Could you just, for a quick minute, we'll get some more information, describe what your journey's been like with VA, with also being on a reservation and also covered by Indian health, because we don't get this opportunity very often. We have a lot of people who come testify in front of us, but I don't think we've ever asked that question here before.
Okay. My experience, and this is some of the members that I've talked to that are veterans from like the Vietnam War and later, a lot of folks have this. They do not want to go to the VA for one reason or another, and I have been going to the VA. Part of that was because I used to work for the VA as a budget analyst and then a program analyst there, so I was kind of familiar with the system. But trying to get other tribal members to go down to the VA is a challenge. Some of that has to deal with transportation. Some of it is just mistrust. When the VA signed the MOU with Indian Health Services, that system does not work. So there is no way that the VA is funding the Indian Health Services for those veterans that are being seen specific or solely at tribal clinics or IHS. Yes.
You bet. Mr. Zinke?
So on the BIA, remind me the So in order to get the contracting ability, you have to go to it's a 628, right?
638.
638. So where is that in the process?
Right now, I believe we're working towards July of this year is what we're working on right now. Originally, we were going to take it over in January of this year, but with the shutdown and the lack of being able to go hire staff, train them, get them down to Artesia and back, we decided to wait until July.
And that was your decision to wait until July?
Correct.
Is there any hurdles between now and July other than
Not that I'm aware of at the moment, no.
And once that occurs, the aviation side should be the contracting.
Correct.
authority.
We should have control over the contracting side of
Okay.
it.
All right. Certainly, if it becomes a hurdle or something like that, that something comes up, I'm sure we'll help you on it.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Pleasure. Other than that, I'm good. I'm glad to see you.
Let me ask, first of all, thank you for your testimony. As you know, there was staffing shortages throughout government, frankly. How's that affected you?
Just the ability to, have clean communication. I think that's probably the biggest thing right there for myself that I'd speak on.
It's pretty much affected us a couple of different ways. Of course, like I said, I was on Haskell Board of Regents. We lost a lot of instructors down there when the first round of cuts came through. Many of those haven't been hired, mostly because of the titles that those folks had. So some of them just went ahead on and left. Also, trying to work with some of the other agencies, like some of the local agencies, the farm agencies and things like that. Most of those folks have left out, and trying to get communication up to a higher level has been a challenge, not knowing who to actually contact. The same with our BIA regional office. I think we used to have a full staff at the Horton agency. Now we have to go all the way down to Anadarko, Oklahoma, to be able to contact those folks and try and get everything worked through there. We're in the same process of trying to self-governance in 638 many of our structures there, just because of the lack of personnel and folks there to try and help us out. That becomes another problem there, too, because while we may be contracted, it still has to be funded. And there is no guarantee, from where I'm sitting at, that, they're going to be funded at an accurate level. On top of that, we also had a problem with some of the costs and those indirect costs and what is the correct amount. And so we're still going through that struggle today with IHS, because our clinic is contracted through them, but they pay us what they said it was, not necessarily what are all the realized costs that we have.
Well, thank you. Again, thank you for being here. I thank you for your interest in the tribal community colleges. They're the future, frankly.
Winnebago Tribe's completely proud of that place. It's
Yeah.
a trailblazer in the tribal community.
Yep, and they're doing great work throughout the country and stuff, and the growth of them is going to be the future of, I was a dentist in the real world. And as we've been out and visited tribes, how do you get a dentist or a doctor to come on some of these remote areas that are, they can't make enough to actually pay off their student loans and stuff like that? The only way you're going to do it is actually educate tribal members.
Correct.
And send them to medical school and to dental school and nursing and that kind of stuff. And they're more likely to come back to the reservation. And this is the future.
Our tribal college doesn't just serve our tribal community either. It's a surrounding area in northeast Nebraska.
Absolutely. So anyway, thank you all. I appreciate you being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Mike Natchee and Laurel Ann Yellowhorse.